Welcome back to the J Podcast. I'm your host, The J. It's been a minute, and I apologize for the delay. I've missed you. Hope you've missed me too. Right now, writers and journalists alike everywhere are freaking the F out over GPT-2, an AI program by OpenAI that they themselves describe as too dangerous to release to the public. I have their article pulled up over here currently on the right-hand side of the screen. I will leave this in the description below for those that want to read along. I encourage you to do so. It's very interesting. Before we pull up the articles from Slate and The Guardian, I'm just going to go straight into a quick description of what OpenAI is. OpenAI is a non-profit artificial intelligence research organization that aims to promote and develop, quote, friendly AI in such a way that is to benefit humanity as a whole, as opposed to like Skynet, I guess. That's straight from Wikipedia. This is a company that's been founded by Elon Musk and Sam Altman, guy that founded Y Combinator. So I'll go ahead and switch you on over to the desktop so you can see what I see over here. GPT-2 was essentially fed a bunch of text data from about 8 million web pages, including Reddit, 40 gigs of internet text in total. So to break this down, an ELI 5 version, you know how your phone has that autocorrect feature where you give it enough words, and based on the words that you give it, it can kind of guess what your next word is? We call that a tree bank. And it can just do that for every word in the English language, and even do styles. The paper here goes on to say that the data was trained, or the AI dataset was trained to also understand words with different meanings given context. So this does actually understand specific things. You can ask it questions, but we'll get to the questions things later. Here's the main scary part of it's freaking the journalists and the writers out. Given some sample text, it can then continue to just write almost ad infinity in the same style and about the same topic. So they gave it a line from Lord of the Rings. They gave it a topic from Miley Cyrus. Apparently there's a lot of Miley Cyrus talk in the Reddit subs and stuff. They gave it a line from 1984, and it continued to write a similar dystopia, but set in China. They gave it a line from John F. Kennedy, and it continued to write a speech. Crazy, crazy stuff here. Super crazy stuff here. So then I'll switch you on over to the Slate article. It says, when is technology too dangerous to release to the public? I do have a little bit of a quarrel with the word dangerous here. When I think dangerous, I do think like Skynet and artificial cars driving around in mass, not prepared for certain weather elements, just crashing in large groups. That sounds dangerous to me. This is more of a societal shift. So I guess in them calling it dangerous, it is a little clickbaity, and they're trying to get people to talk about it openly. So that's what we're going to do today, just have an open discussion about what this would do for humanity if we released an AI that can just write code. And that was what I was going to kind of segue into, is at what point does this just write text? How much further is it until we can train this to write more code to where it can program itself better than we can program it? That's pretty much, as far as I can tell, it knows how to write text, it can get understanding. Once it can think for itself in a limited fashion and then build upon its own intelligence and then write code, we're doomed. We're totally doomed. But going back to this Slate article here, I did highlight a couple things that I wanted to go over that I found particularly interesting. It says most AI technology is only equipped or trained to handle specific tasks, while this one wasn't. It can distinguish between multiple definitions, as we talked about, and given different contexts and different goals, not trained on one specific thing. It's almost better than the models that were trained to do that one thing specifically, which is crazy. Yeah, I can find my next bullet here. It says John Bowers, a research associate at Berkman Klein Center, says, what to do next may come down to a cost-benefit calculus. The fact of the matter is that a lot of the cool stuff we're seeing coming out of AI research can be weaponized in some form. And he later goes on to say, and others say this too, that whether OpenAI releases this in full, which they haven't done, they released a smaller version, other people can reverse engineer in a way how this was done and essentially make another one. So they're not keeping this from being released, they're just delaying it ever so slightly. This is inevitable. Another quote here says, machine learning practitioners have not yet established many widely accepted frameworks for considering the ethical implications of creating and releasing AI-enabled technologies. Another fancy way of saying not all companies are like OpenAI. Some of them would have just released it without considering how it's going to impact society. So say another company comes along and makes the self-driving semi-truck before Tesla gets theirs completely rolled out. What's to stop them from releasing those in mass and replacing the 3 million plus truck drivers we have across the United States? Goes on to say, if a recent history is any indication, trying to suppress or control the proliferation of AI tools may also be a losing battle. Even if there is a consensus around the ethics of disseminating certain algorithms, it might not be enough to stop people who disagree. Kind of compares the current state of AI to the early 90s battle against encryption. They wanted to have backdoors, references Joe Biden and his legislation specifically, and how the later invention of PGP encryption pretty much rendered that entirely useless. And a study in 1996 concluded that we're going to get these services from other countries. Whether we make it legal with backdoors or not, we're just going to turn to somebody else that doesn't have those backdoors. So I'll go ahead and skip on over to the two Guardian articles. One says AI can write just like me. Brace yourselves before you waste yourselves. Put this one in the description below. It's a little opinionated, and it is in the opinionated piece. It talks about Elon and calling people pedos. It's not at all related to GPT-2. Because of that, I would kind of just skimmed it. This one here just talks about the AI in general. New AI fake text generator may be too dangerous to release, says creators, as we've talked about. Let's see if I highlighted anything noteworthy from these guys. Nope. Nothing at all. Because that's pretty much it. There was another part within OpenAI's blog post on the left here, reading comprehension, where they give it a question, or they give it a set of text or data, and then they ask it questions. And it actually understands. It's picking elements from the text that it was given here. This is about the Summer Olympics of 2008. Asks what the theme was, the length of the races, was it larger than the previous one, where did it begin, and it can pull context clues from the text. Doing those little captchas that we do to prove that we're not bots, this thing tested is nearly human. And in a lot of other tests, which it referenced above, it tested better than the ones that were made specifically to pass that test. Like the percent of it likely being human, 92%, 95% human, 96% human. Some of these are a little more complex, but still, to beat the previous record by a factor of 20 to 30% in the upper 90s is a degree of terrifying in which we should all be considering it. So, pretty much going to end that here. I'm going to go ahead and put these links in the description below per usual. Appreciate you tuning in to the J Podcast, and I will see you guys in the next one. You guys have a great week. Thank you again.